G'day and welcome to this virtual tour of the Great North Walk. This is a 260 kilometre walk that links Sydney to Newcastle. You can do it as a series of day walks or as weekend hikes, or if you're keen, a 2-week solid through hike. Now it starts at the obelisk of Macquarie Place, where you wander down to Circular Quay and grab a ferry past the Opera House, underneath the harbour bridge, and enjoying the Sydney harbour views as you wander up past the mouth of the Lane Cove River to jump off the ferry at Woolwich Wharf. Here you wander through past some lookouts and through some bushland and past some historic buildings before the Great North Walk comes back and joins onto the Lane Cove River, exploring some of these pockets of bushland before you come into Lane Cove National Park itself, where you wander past through the fairylands, through a series of picnic areas, and explore a whole bunch of caves and sandstone overhangs. And now we're in the upper reaches of the Lane Cove National Park, where we wander past Brown's Waterhole, back of South Turramurra here, and head up through the historic Conscript Pass, which was built during the Depression. And you head over at Thornley train station and come to the upper reaches of the Brow Valley Regional Park. And more sandstone country, great views, some of my favourite walking in Sydney through here. Past some Aboriginal engravings and through fish ponds, a beautiful waterhole where the track meanders through, and then up on top of Tunks Ridge where there's a campsite, down across Golston Gorge and through this deepening gorge along Brow Creek, past a couple of campsites to the Croslands campsite where there's some good facilities there, including toilets and drinking water. Across Coleman Creek where there's some more campsites, across Sam's Creek up to Narbonoo Lookout where there's some more fantastic views before we come down to Brow Waters, where there's a great chance to fill your stomach with some fish and chips or some ice creams before we climb up this ridge, crossing a few beautiful creeks, through more sandstone country, great views and some scribbly gum trees, across Cowan at the train station and down to Jerusalem Bay. Some beautiful views here before we climb up on the ridge. You'll get pretty used to the hills, so don't let that turn you off. Coming across Campbell's Crater and along the ridge before we come down to Brooklyn Dam. Quite a large dam built for the steam engines coming through. And then down to Brooklyn, again, more fish and chips and more ice cream. Before you jump on a ferry or a water taxi, which takes you across the Hawkesbury until you get close to the ocean, where you'll turn left and bring you into Patonga. Pleasant little village where there's some place to camp, some more chance to fill up your stomach, get some more energy before you climb up yet another hill. This one's worth it. You've got some great views off Warra Lookout, across the water, and you're into the Brisbane Water National Park. Some fantastic views through here. This whole park is just filled with sandstone platforms, which just give you uninterrupted views. And the Wonderbine, Mount Wonderbine's a great side trip. Good views from there across Gosford and much of the Central Coast. And some brooks and waterfalls that we cross when we're not up on these ridges. Across the suspension bridge and down to Mooney Creek, where we cross underneath the F3 at the large Mooney Bridge. And a few campsites up this creek before we get to the Mooney Dam, the original water supply for Gosford. And then we follow an old trail up through the back here, past a couple of quarries to Summersby Store. Summersby Store is just coming up here now on our right, and that's a great place to, again, fill up your stomach. I enjoyed a lovely breakfast there, and before we wander through some more farmland to Palm Grove. This is a nature reserve filled with fantastic examples of cabbage palms, some eucalypt forest as we wander up through Hidden Valley. Now we follow the old Toohey's Road along the side of Rimba Creek to Stringy Bark Point, beautiful campsite where we cross Rimba Creek and climb up onto a ridge and follow this up through to some more farmland. There's a B&B on your right here, Forest Park, nice place to stay. And we come across now to follow a old dray track that was used for logging the area during the 1800s. Thankfully now just used by bushwalkers as we wander down here to Yarramalong Store and the village here. Great chance to fill up the stomach and the backpack again. This walk's managed by the Department of Lands of New South Wales. The walk's multi-tenure across this private land, national park, state forest, and so these guys do a fantastic job with the signage and keeping one consistent walk all the way through all these different areas of management. Now, we just spent about a day wandering up through this valley to come to Cedar Brush Trackhead, where we kick up on top of another ridge, and starting to get close to the Wadigans now, and heading through a state forest. And on our left, as we come over this hill, you'll see the Basin campsite. Nice little place to stay, and crossing another brook here, beautiful little waterhole, and coming up to the highest point here on the Great North Walk. There's a side trip actually up to Mount Warrawong if you want to go a little bit higher, but the track itself crosses the highest point just there before we head down to the Wadigan Creek campsite, cross some farmland across the creek, and then back up onto another ridge. Here we've got the Flat Rock Lookouts coming up here, and on our right is a beautiful valley where you can really appreciate the views from that lookout. Come along the ridge to this communications tower where we wind down past the Lonely Goat Olive B&B. Now there's B&Bs if you want every night of this walk. You'll need we go across the Crawfords farm. They've got a nice water tank where you can fill up your water bottles, come up on top of the ridge, past some campsites and an old logger's hut, and the most majestic ridge I think on this walk, where you're wandering past lookout after lookout, coming into Wadigan National Park now. And just a beautiful walk, although it's a longer dirt road, but it's not a very much used dirt road. Heading into Wadigan State Forest now, there's a campsite here and some lookouts, the Hunter Lookout and McLean's Lookout, which give you great views up the Hunter. And then the walk cuts across some more valleys and some more rainforest environments where filled with moss and ferns and strangler figs. And we come to Heaton Lookout, which now gives us views off to the right here, across Lake Macquarie and the Hunter again. And Heaton Gap Lookout, and down across the road at Wadigan Forest Motel. You can stay the night or just fill up your stomach and your pack again before we head across our last major ridge, and enjoying some distant views across to Newcastle and to the water as we come down and cross underneath the F3 under an underpass here, and wander through some farmland, a bit of a rural landscape here, and coming up now to Taraba train station. All of a sudden things change with the views of Lake Macquarie. Fantastic wandering along the edge of Lake Macquarie here to Warners Bay, where there's yet another great ice cream shop at Dippin' Dots there. Now coming up to Newcastle, we're coming up through Charlestown now, following just pockets of bushland, still quite nice walking, and coming up to Glenrock State Recreation Area. And this reserve has Leichhardt's Lookout and the lagoon itself, which is beautiful, scout camp. And then the Great North Walk finishes with this most amazing and majestic walking up through these beaches, Merryweather Beach and Dixon Park, to the Strzelecki Lookout, Shepherd's Hill, King Edward's Park, another obelisk, and into Queen's Wharf, the official end of the Great North Walk. Well, there you go, 9 minutes. It'll probably take you a bit longer by the time you get your shoes on and get yourself out there, but I hope you enjoy it, whether you do it as short day walks or whether you decide to tackle as one solid 2-week journey. You can find more information, track notes and maps on wildwalks.com. Enjoy your walking.